All around. Hey. Welcome, everybody, back to this Friday's edition to Down and Dirty. You're listening to WMNF Community Radio. My name is Mario Nunez. I'm seated alongside my broadcast partner, JD. That's you. Come on, Johnny.
I forgot I was here.
Come on, Johnny.
Good morning, Mario. Jason, what's going on, gents?
I am hanging in there. How about yourselves? We are hot topics.
Yes, we got a lot of hot topics as it's going to be a hot time in the old hot town tonight and this morning and this afternoon. We hope everybody has fared well. We know that Idalia, and that's another thing. We can talk about that. Nobody can properly pronounce the name Idalia. You watch as much media as I was consuming over the last few. Yeah,
it's like an onion.
They can't get it right to save their lives. And
sweet onion.
But thankfully, the legend of the Tocobaga Indians held again. And whatever happened, it just wanted to just breeze on by the Tampa Bay area.
I had a question about that legend.
Dale, go.
If we stole the land from the Indians,
yes.
Why would the Indians be legend and ghosts be protecting us?
To protect us. I don't think they're protecting us.
I don't know. At this rate, I'm willing to bury one in my backyard. It's going to continue with the
I was going to ring a bell on that, but not really. Not really.
No.
I don't think we should.
I'm just saying.
Politically incorrect, Jason.
So let's go ahead. Yep. Let's go ahead and say up front that we're just having a lot of fun in the studio this morning because the ambient temperature here in the studio is probably about 103.
Well, we always say that we're really hot. Okay.
And we are. So today we're going to get down and dirty.
There's no air conditioning in the studio today.
In a lot of different ways, and I don't know why. We don't know why. But we're going to suffer through it and bring you the best broadcast that we can. We usually start the show with what happened over the last week. And more importantly, what has stuck in our craw.
Go for it.
No. The host goes. I mean, I'll go last. I'll go last. We always start with the younger whippersnapper.
All right, whippersnapper.
You go first.
Whippersnapping? All right, so I'll say
you're whipping and snapping.
City council sure feels dysfunctional. I mean, I'm always bringing you county or city issues, but man, if you watched yesterday, that workshop went till 4 in the afternoon. As someone who's worked in that hallways, and a workshop going till 4 in the afternoon is like unheard of. Then they had an evening, and there seems to be a lot of dysfunction.
And just the budget still?
Tampa Scorecard, my old project, a couple of other issues, but I mean, it was more than long-winded. It was the never-ending story minus the furry dragon. Not great.
Ouch. Johnny.
All right, we'll continue on with the city of Tampa because my pet peeve is the fact that the mayor has proposed a 16% tax hike. And I'm not going to quit talking about it until they don't do it.
Until they abandon that
Until they abandon the idea. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. People in this community are hurting. They're hurting from an increase in everything from their food to their gasoline to their insurance to their fees, their water fees. Across the board, we do not need a tax increase from local government at this time. I'm sorry. Wrong. Morally wrong. Bing.
But at least they got their sandbags. Okay, can we just give them a little love?
They got their sandbags?
I don't know what that means. So let's finish this segment with and I'll say it bluntly. We talked about it jokingly, lovingly. It's the media. It's the media and their coverage. It's disaster porn coverage of all of. Yeah, it is.
It is.
The hurricane. Listen. For those of us that are battle hardened and have been in this area for a hot minute, we don't freak out. We don't freak out. We adhere to Dennis Phillips and his rule number 7. Rule number 7, which is don't freak out until he freaks out. That's what I always used to tell people when in my previous career, as a flight attendant. I would tell people, the nervous flyers especially, listen, if the flight attendants are cool, calm, and collected, you be cool, calm, and collected. Don't freak out unless we're freaking out. If we're freaking out, all hell's about to break loose. But for the most part, the news media was... It was comical at some points, JD. They would be going to their field reporters, and they would ask them in 7 different ways. So Susie, what are you seeing this time that you didn't see last time?
Well, I like it when it's like barely sprinkling, right?
Yeah, they got nothing to say.
No, barely sprinkling. And they're going, it's like...
My favorite is when they're like, stay safe out there. It's like, you put me here. Like, I'm literally here because y'all put me here.
The guy they sent up to Perry.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Okay, that guy was getting blown around.
Yeah, that was Paul LaGrone. Paul LaGrone, that's ABC Action News. A shout out to Paul LaGrone and his wife, Katie, who is also a field reporter there at ABC Action News. Paul was in the middle of a shot. and there was he was standing in a vestibule in front of a hotel, covered
Vestibule,
parking,
yeah.
a little parking, covered parking.
Yeah.
He stepped back away from the car that was protecting him from the wind, and he literally got blown out of the shot. It was impressive, and it's only a matter of time. I say this each and every time we do this, before somebody gets their head chopped off on live TV by a stop sign that has been blown off of its mooring and comes...
They'll make it into the Broadcast Hall of Fame
Probably.
posthumously.
It's like Final Destination.
So can we move on?
We're done with that
All right,
hurricane.
we're done raising hell for a minute, but we're going to raise hell all show long. Let me say up top, if you'd like to join us in today's conversation, and today we're celebrating Labor Day, but not because it's another excuse to go out and eat hot dogs and hamburgers and coleslaw. We're celebrating the true meaning of this holiday, which is celebrating labor in this country and all that entails. We've got a couple of fabulous guests for you that we're going to talk to in a moment in studio, one that will be calling in just a bit. But if you'd like to join our conversation, please call us at 813-239-9663. Irene is standing by to take your calls. If you'd like to send us an email, here's that email address, dj@wmnf.org. And if you'd like to text us, because that's what the young people are doing these days, it's 813
Yes, we text.
433 813-433-0885. JD?
Well, we've got some great guests, two of them in the studio and another one joining us by phone in a little while. First off, I'd like to introduce Jim Janecko. And Jim is president of the operating engineers, but he's also runs the sort of umbrella organization for labor in West Central Florida. It's called West Central Florida Labor Council. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, all right, great. Thanks to be here.
We also have my good friend Steve Simon, who's from the city of Tampa. In the city of Tampa, he's president of the Amalgamated Transit Union.
My favorite word.
Also known amalgamated. Spell it, Jason.
It's a mouthful.
AMALG.
Oh, stop. Okay. The ATU, fondly known as the ATU. Steve, welcome. Steve hails from up New York, New Jersey, my way, originally, but he's been down here a long time doing great work. Welcome, Steve.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Local 1464 is in the house.
All right. I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, I can read it right off of his shirt.
Oh,
Now
well,
making-
I'm less.
It's not that impressive.
Now
I'm
making
less
a spell
impressed.
amalgamated.
All right. Well, gentlemen, Labor Day is upon us. Jim?
It is. It's a celebration of labor. You know, we represent pretty much every line of work. Any job that you can think of, there's a union.
Give us
for
some
that.
examples in this area.
Sure. I mean, we represent everything from teachers, our sanitation workers, bus drivers, communication workers, operating engineers, crane operators. So the cranes that you see reshaping Tampa's downtown, those are our members for the most part. There are some non-union crane operators out there, but we represent about 80% of the market, I'd say. But laborers, plumbers, pipe fitters,
Hospitality?
anything, building trades, hospitality workers, hotel, restaurant workers, teachers, of course.
100%.
You know, so any line of work, we represent it. And as the West Central Florida AFL-CIO, we are that umbrella organization that represents pretty much all of the working families in the area, blue collar and white collar workers.
And Jim, how did you get involved in this? Probably originally you were just learned how to operate a crane. So why did the union aspect of this appeal to you?
I come from a union family.
There you go.
I come from a union
Here.
family.
What state?
My mom taught high school for 46 years. She was the building rep. She was the union rep for the teachers union. So
Where was that? What?
Pittsburgh and also Central Florida. I grew up in Leesburg, Lake County, so we were probably the only bumper sticker that was Union Yes in rural Lake County. But
That's why my man here is a giant Steelers fan.
And we appreciate
Notre
that.
Dame, that's right. It was drilled into me. But you know, Mario, you mentioned hospitality, and before I got involved in my career, I worked any number of jobs. I was a doorman at a restaurant. I was a bellman. I worked valet. Worked a bunch of jobs in hospitality, and it's tough. People are, it's tough to make ends meet. And I moved to Miami in 2009 and joined Unite Here, the Hotel and Restaurant Workers Union, and learned about union organizing, and then went from there. Got involved in politics and legislative issues, joined the AFL-CIO, and then became an operating engineer. with the operating engineers, Local 487.
I mentioned at the top, Jim, that in a previous life, in my previous career, chosen path was as a flight attendant with American Airlines, and today I'm wearing my APFA, Association of Professional Flight Attendants, pin in solidarity with the union, which has just now decided with a 95 percentile vote, and it wasn't that close when I struck in '93.
Going out?
If demands aren't met, the clock gets started. Yeah, they're going to be going out. So,
okay, before we go to Steve, a friend of mine plugged me into this song by Billy Bragg, a union song. Jason, you got it?
Yes, I do.
You better join a union, brother. Organize today. You'll see where the problem really lies when the union comes around. Rich men earning north of $1 million wanna keep the working folk down. Wanna keep
That's a beautiful
the
song.
struggle continues, right? The struggle continues.
And who is that sounding like, Jason? What'd you say?
It sounds like it wants to be Pete Seeger, but it's not Pete Seeger.
But I'm sure
it's
he's
different. Only
channeling
Pete
that
Seeger.
inspired by
Exactly.
Pete Seeger.
Only
Steve,
one Pete
you
Seeger.
heard that song before?
No, actually, this is the first time that I'm hearing it, and it's definitely on point. Though.
Yes, it
You
is.
got to play it for your peeps.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will download that and play it for my peeps.
So tell us a little bit about you, Steve.
Well, my background, I'm originally from New York. You know, that's when I got
We couldn't
involved.
tell.
His accent wasn't there at any point.
All over that microphone, sir.
Microphone check 1 2.
Let's go.
So I got started in the labor movement when I was working for the telephone company,
cool.
which back then it was New York Telephone. 4 months on the job, we went on strike.
There you
I
go.
didn't know what to do, so I asked my manager, what am I supposed to do? And he said, well, we got plenty of work for you, but we recommend you talk to your union rep, which I did. And so we went. That was the first of 4 strikes that I've been through.
Wow.
And then fast forward to coming down to Tampa. I started in the wastewater treatment plant as a wastewater treatment plant operator, and took on the role of executive board member in regards to the union here, which is ATU, and then did some research and saw that we needed a lot more progression in the area, and so therefore I ran for president, ended up becoming president, and then have been directing our organization in a certain way.
What do they say, JD? What do they say? The cream always rises to the top. And you're looking at two fellas here that have taken upon the leadership role because they could not stand pat, right? They could not sit and see things happen without stepping into that breach. So kudos to both of you fellas who I'm just getting to meet, who I'm just getting introduced to this morning. I'm proud of both of you, man.
Well, that's awesome. I worried where you were going with that one, Mario, because he works in the sewer plant, and
Right?
what rises to
Art
the top?
Carney.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think we want that rising to the top.
It's a little early in the morning. for
True that.
Hey, and we keep it all in the pipes.
Atta baby.
But gentlemen, we heard it on the song. Why are unions important? Why historically? I mean, I was doing a little research on Labor Day. Labor Day goes back to the 1880s, and back then people get killed. People got killed for trying to form labors in the coal mines and all across the country. And they get the support of local government and local police, and they go out and bang heads. But where have we been? Where are we going?
Well, the labor movement itself is definitely on the rise again. There are several unions that are being formed throughout the U.S. and Canada. And, I'm favorable to that, because the union is in place where basically the employees all come together to help each other rise. And so this way, you don't have companies that are exploiting the employees.
Or governments?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's just as much need today for labor unions in the workplace as there ever has been. There's sort of an anti-union narrative that says that unions serve their place at one point in history, but now that we have work safety regulations and we have minimum wage laws and child labor laws, that the unions they serve their purpose. They were good at one time, but they're no longer needed. And I think that's ridiculous because we look at the income inequality, the wage gap continues to widen. Workers continue to suffer injuries and fatalities on the job. There's
Where
always
would we
gonna
be
an
without
imbalance.
OSHA? Where would we be without OSHA?
And OSHA came about because the unions demanded it. Workers took to the streets to demand protections, and that came from
Minimum wage.
Yeah.
40-hour work week.
Minimum
No
age.
child labor.
Minimum age. Child labor,
all-
exactly.
All that stuff started with the labor unions 100 years ago.
When you can't bargain collectively, you have to walk into the boss's office
Hat
with
in
your
hand.
hat in hand and beg for a raise. And that's not the way we do things as a union. We stand together and lift each other up and stand for solidarity for all.
I tried to get our champion Bernie Sanders to call in this morning, but he wasn't taking my calls. But thank goodness that there's somebody out there on the Hill that has the chutzpah to stay right. That was for you, Jason.
Thank
that
you.
Was, that was,
Yeah,
that was,
Yeah, a little bit more
that was
CH.
fair.
Yeah, it's-
to stand in and to take the charge.
So listen to this. Economic Policy Institute 2021 paper. They found that on average, the 17 U.S. states with the highest union densities have state minimum wages that are on average 19% higher than the national average and 40% higher than those in low union density states. These same states have higher median annual incomes that are 6,000 higher than the national average. They have higher than average unemployment insurance recipiency rates. They're more likely to pass paid sick leave laws and paid family leave and medical leave laws. Like the reality is,
And they're not suffering economically.
no,
Those states
the
don't
states
suffer.
that pass pro-union laws, as opposed to say the 28 states that have passed right to work. There's direct correlation between these laws leading to higher qualities of life, higher wages. It's not, this isn't debatable. That's hard scientific and economic data that proves it.
But what you lead us to is, where are those states? And they're generally not in the South. The South has generally been hostile to unions over the last probably forever.
200 years.
But speaking of hostile, what happened in Tallahassee this year? With that
SB
with that bill?
256.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Tell us
that was
about
a
it.
really,
What was
really
it? What was it,
hostile
Steve?
environment.
What
you
was
know.
it?
I was up there from the beginning, March 7th, the first day, which coincidentally happened to be my birthday. So, as I'm getting the calls, hey, what are you doing for your birthday? I'm going up to Tallahassee to fight bills.
There you go.
But specifically the HB 256 being a union busting bill, it's an attack on workers.
How does it work? What did they do?
Well, there's a lot of criteria that makes it up, such as after July 1st, then the companies could no longer deduct dues, from union members. Also, you have to maintain 60% density of dues-paying members out of your bargaining unit.
Wow.
Those are the two biggest items.
So if you can't deduct it, or it doesn't get deducted from their paycheck, that means somebody's got to write you a check or stroke you a check or give you a credit card to stay in the union. You got to chase people down month after month.
It turns the union into a collection agency, and it places an undue burden on union members who want to pay their dues. It's easy to just have your dues deducted from your paycheck, just as if you
Like
want
it's
to make
always
a
been.
charitable donation, or if you want to do anything else, that's still fine. But you can't deduct your union dues anymore out of your paycheck, and so it places an undue burden on the union members. And as Steve was mentioning, it makes these public sector workers now, you have to prove that you have 60% dues-paying membership, or you're decertified. So we're in a right-to-work state where union members don't have to pay union dues. That's the dirty secret. That's the dirty secret. You can be a union member in the state of Florida. You can enjoy,
But have no
all the
fiduciary
benefits.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Right. You can receive all the benefits. The union has to provide you representation, but you don't have to pay dues. So now, if you can't prove, as a union, if you can't prove that 60% of the people aren't paying the dues that they don't even have to pay to begin with, then you're decertified as a union. If they did this to a private business, there would be uproar. If they told Hilton Hotels that they had to sell a certain percentage of hotel rooms
At a
every
certain
single
rate.
night and meet a certain percentage of occupancy rates, or they were no longer allowed to do business,
So-
there would be
And
an uproar.
consider
brings
they
the question-
excluded police, firefighters, and correction officers on this. So they know it's wrong. They're more than well aware that this is going to harm
Oh,
unions and working
they
people.
excluded police
Yeah, how
and fire?
kind of them, right?
What a-
Because those are the unions that
What a-
they love.
What a shock. Amara,
It's-
you got some calls.
I do. And just to follow up on your comment, Jim, it's kabuki theater, man. And they're also doing this in the world of voting and making it so difficult and putting all the obstacles in our way that, people get discouraged. And then what's the point? The point is, try going in and negotiating without that protection. You're going into battle without your shield? For 30 years, I paid my dues proudly. That's right.
Can I just piggyback on that one second, real
Please,
quick?
Steve, please.
Okay, because I'd like to bring out the point that there's a common misconception that if you don't get into any trouble, then you don't need a union.
Yes.
Okay,
This is well
but
said.
what needs to be learned is that without the union, the company doesn't give you anything. So everything that you got with your job that you like, that keeps you there, was negotiated by the union.
That's right.
So therefore, if you're in a union job, you should show your appreciation by paying union dues.
100%.
All right, take those
Amen.
calls. So we're good.
Let's go to our caller, Debbie. We see you there. Let's go to you presently. Debbie in Sarasota. Hello, good morning.
Hi, Mario. It's Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. I know who you are, and my listeners might not, but good morning. What say you about this conversation we're having this morning? Is it up close and personal?
Yeah, it is. I wasn't aware of what's going on, but we need to make it known. Is it a bill that's on the floor?
No, they already
It's already
passed it last spring. It doesn't mean they can't undo it. Get in touch with your legislators and tell them how much you don't like it. What's the number?
Senate Bill 256.
Senate Bill
It's in
256.
law.
Anybody who's listening should let their state senators and their state representatives know that bill is just morally wrong.
Yeah.
Morality, I don't think, has a lot to do with it. So what else is happening in your world, Debbie?
Well, as you know, the American Airlines flight attendants just passed a strike vote, which we are hoping will pressure the management negotiating team to finally finish our negotiations. They've been in negotiations for 4 years now. They asked for the union negotiation team to bring the money part of the contract to the table, pass it to them back in March, which our union did, and the company has yet to pass their part back. Right now, they're working on work rules, and everything that they have asked to the union is concessions.
It's never the other way around, is it, Debbie? In '93, we remember how this went. It didn't go well, and once the clock started, that's when you get and you dig your heels in, because you know that it's either now or never. And it's amazing that we're at this point again. You guys are such dedicated public service employees. I mean, you guys do what we did, right? For all those years.
Yeah,
People don't
you were there in
understand the risk that we... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you were there in '93. I wasn't I wasn't flying at that time. But, I've heard the stories.
It was harrowing. It was harrowing, Debbie.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, though. I grew up in a household, as Jim was alluding to earlier, with his mom. My father, also a union member. The main thing I remember knowing growing up was, listen, brother, if that picket line goes up, mijo, if that picket line goes up, you do not cross it. Mm-hmm. You do not cross it, because, you can have an exemplary career of 45 years. And in that 46th year, if you decide it's your year to go ahead and cross the picket line, when they lay you to rest, all that they're going to put on that headstone is, here lies a scab, because that's all they're going to remember. They're not going to remember anything about the good times and the dedicated employee. So I listen, I wish you well. We have your back. I love you. I'm trying to get my union pin going. I don't have my red one today, but I got my blue one. So if you find a red one laying around somewhere, send it to me, because I'm there with you in spirit. And if you need anything, Debbie, you know where to call.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you so much for calling in today.
All right, we got another
All
one?
right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
we do.
Good topic today.
Great topic today. Carol in Lake Placid, are you with us?
I am with you all the way, 100%.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about your call. What's your connection to this fabulous topic?
I retired from the Palm Beach County school system
me too.
several years ago. You too?
Yeah, 3 years. That was my Vietnam.
He had a
Teaching
long
high school
tenure,
in Palm
3
Beach County
years.
for 3 years.
Sounds to me like Carol might have had a little
I was
longer
23
in
and
the
was teaching
saddle.
17-year-olds fresh out of graduate school.
Wow. Well, I'm 85 now, so
Oh,
bless
I
you.
was going to
Bless
say
you.
that when I worked at the school system, we were part of the International Brotherhood of Firemen and Oilers.
Wow.
And we were not, I wasn't a teacher, I was one of the support group. And when the teachers got raises, we got raises. So, I mean,
Rising tide.
indirectly, it's so much good comes from it. And also, I belong to a group called the South Florida Raging Grannies, and every Labor Day we used to go and picket and fight and march
Okay.
and everything.
Nice.
You're
for the
awesome.
labor.
We need the Raging Grannies up here in Tampa.
like-
Yes, we do. And if the Raging Grannies would like to be on our show, we'd like to talk to the Raging Grannies.
If
That's
you're
fabulous.
open for adoption, I only have one
I'm
grandmother.
sure there
currently.
are some around who wouldn't mind getting together for. I mean, I'm kind of out of the loop right now, but it's so important to keep doing that. But the main thing I called was Ann Feeney, the union maid, passed away several years ago, but she was a light to us for so many years. She fought for the union and marched and worked and sang all the songs that were so beautiful. Union Maid is one of my favorites. And
Beautiful.
I didn't know if you guys were playing. I heard that you were playing some songs, so if you could.
Yeah, check
For
out
Annie, we'll-
check out those Billy Bragg song that we,
We will
played
cue
earlier.
up that
It's
song
wonderful.
for Annie. May she rest in power. Carol, thank you so much for calling us today.
So I got to give myself a shout out.
We're
Mario.
grateful for your call.
All
John?
right, thank you, Carol. When I taught school, Jason, I was a member here not only a member of CTA, but I think I was my school rep.
Yeah, I was the rep. I was a rep for John I. Leonard High School.
Yeah,
God,
I was a rep for
lifetime ago.
Booker T. Washington. But
Hey,
anyway,
Booker T.
and that was really my first exposure to union.
Same.
So you got another one more call?
The topic is hot. It's
All
not
right,
just
let's
the
get
room.
back to
It's
these
not.
guys.
Yes, of course. It's not just the room we're sitting in, fellas. The topic.
The room is hot too.
This is one of those topics that you either are for me or against me. You know,
Shouldn't be that way though,
Shouldn't.
However,
because when union wages have risen, society's
Everybody
wages
benefits.
have risen.
You go,
Everybody.
Listen, that magic time period after WW2 when the unions were at their strongest, and what is it, fellas? Correct me if I'm wrong. 40% of laborers was organized at that time.
Oh, back then, yeah, absolutely.
So you know, and that, like I said, again, rising tide, all boats. We just know that things work better. More people have access to opportunity, right? Ladders,
Absolutely.
build ladders. So
What do
let's
we
go.
got?
Steven, you're in St. Pete. We're coming to you now.
We're totally regional today. Lake
Yeah, look at
Placid,
this Lake Placid.
Sarasota,
Huh?
St. Pete.
There you go. WMNF, we're doing it today for you. Okay, Steven, talk to us.
Yeah, I was originally born in Detroit, Michigan, in Uniontown. In fact, when I was a kid, we'd go to Detroit Tiger games at Tiger Stadium. My dad, local 58 electricians union. We could park at the Union Hall, go to the game. In that Union Hall, when I used to go to union meetings with my father, if you ever mentioned the name of Ronald Reagan or Joe Biden, you got your blank handed to you, you know? And basically, when you look at the history of the country, started in slavery, then it went to peonage, indentured servitude after the Civil War, and then the Right to Work South wanted to maintain that system, so they started a peonage system where when black people were freed, they could, you know, they would be arrested or ticketed for gathering or whatever because they were standing around, and they put you in the prison. And then the private prison system, which we still have today, would rent that guy to the plantation. Now, when Reagan declared war on labor unions with the air traffic controllers,
air traffic
1980.
yeah, and Reaganism, which is still killing us today because both parties are ruled by Reaganism today, destroyed the union movement. And like I said, I've lived in Florida. I came down here when my parents retired. And the wages still to this day as we speak. I was working.
All right, what's the question? We love hearing that, but what's the question?
Oh, no. Oh, I'm just saying like this. How do labor unions gather strength, I mean real strength and real power, where Walmart has to hire union people, Publix, I still can't believe that people have not picketed and strike there. What has to happen in the right to work
Great question.
in Florida
Great question.
to get unions strong? But the reason I was filling you in on a little history there is because, like I said, I've always been a union person. And when I first got down here, I could not believe the wages that people were paid. I was working for my parents, right? And
Yep.
so the wages that people were paid here,
All right.
still to this day. Why do I have to live at home?
We got your question. We're going to throw it to these
Thank you,
guys.
thank you, Steven.
Thanks for calling. Thanks for
calling.
listening.
To y'all.
Jimmy, take a shot at it.
Yeah, I mean, the answer for all of this is organizing. Workers have to talk to each other and organize. You know, the National Labor Relations Act gives workers the right to form or join a union. And that's what it all comes down to. You've got the federal protection to form or join a union, organize a union at your workplace. when it's done right with the guidance of a union that has experience of guiding workers through an election process and through the organizing process, let's be clear, it's very daunting. It can be a very scary experience. There will be pushback. There will be people who
there will be threats.
There will be threats. There will be coercion. There will be intimidation. There will be promises. You'll get raises.
Just like you see in the movies.
What did we read about recently? Amazon, Starbucks. Those are some of the ones that have been getting in the news. I'm sure there's a lot more.
Apple. I mean, workers are organizing across the country, and that's going to be the solution because you've got the right to organize, but you've got to exercise those rights. There's nothing that management can do that can stop you once you actually exercise your rights. It's all just a bluff game. They're going to try
a game of chicken, right?
Yes, they're going to try to threaten you. They're going to try to scare you. But if you keep your eye on the prize, you can get to the finish line and organize a union.
Steve, how is it when you go around the city to the different departments and I'll tell you what, you have a wide variety of people who are in the ATU. I mean, you've got secretarial, administrative staff, even at TPD, I think I recall.
Yes.
And then you've got people at the sewer plant, people at the water plant, people driving garbage trucks. You got a diverse group of folks out there. How do you convince them that this is important?
Well, first off, I'm a walking commercial. So anybody that comes within 3 feet of me, they hear something about the union, joining the union, being a part of the union, being active in the union, Coming from up north and seeing how the unions operated up there, part of my ultimate goal is to create that same environment here in the city of Tampa. So you talk to people, you educate them, and then that is what gets them to join, basically.
And the fights that we fought together, okay, you and your predecessor, what was her name? I'm so sorry.
You're talking about Martha?
Martha, thank you. Martha and I had fought some good battles together as well. But what always bothered me was Tampa Police Department and Tampa Fire Rescue have their own unions. Good for them, okay? But they ended up being very, very strong, and they seem to get anything they want, okay?
Here.
And,
so true.
But ATU has always, been behind in that regard. And I'm so thrilled at what you've been doing because you've lit a fire in the organization to make things happen. But that disparity always bothered me. It's like, why, just because they're police and fire doesn't make them mean they work any harder. I understand it's a little, it's more dangerous, fine. But you guys work as hard as or harder than anybody. I think your slogan is, we make the city run, right?
We keep the city of Tampa running.
Which is true.
Quite literally.
But
Absolutely.
That bothered me, Steve.
It doesn't hurt. And Steve, your leadership as well as Jim is evident here today. Your commitment is evident here today. And I'll add to that. It doesn't hurt, my brother, that you got this LL Cool J thing going on with the accent that is very appealing. You know what I mean? I could listen to you speak on any topic, but it especially resonates when you're talking about work and labor and representation and how much you care. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
That's strong, brother. That's strong.
I appreciate that. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
I think that shows.
I found my calling.
I think that
I'm
shows.
running with it.
There you go. Let me
you.
listen. Well, this is the most calls we've ever received.
I'm loving
Is it
it.
okay?
Blowing up the board.
So we're going to ask our callers to be brief, be bright,
and ask your question.
And we're going because we're going to take as many callers as we can. We're really thrilled that everybody's calling in today. This is Richard, who's been waiting the longest, and Richard's calling us from Riverview, Ruskin. Richard.
Hello, I'm going to give you a little of my pedigree. I'm going to be quick about it.
Thank you.
But all of this in Florida. I've been a member of IBRU, been a member of the Steel Workers Union, been a member of the Chemical Workers Union, and I was a local president for UAW for 7 years here in Tampa.
Wow.
We were one of the few manufacturing you hear of all these unions now, and most of them are in the service industries. One thing someone just said about the stratification when they're talking about the firefighters and the police, when the governor, DeSantis, I'm going to be nice,
You don't have to.
put in his most recent law, he carved out a special carve-out where they can still collect their dues through the union.
What is that? That is just wrong.
Yeah. You are familiar with what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, teachers and unions like that have to send in a separate check, which leads to lower union membership. And he carved out a niche for the police and firefighters union because they support him. There is also stratification within the unions themselves. our little local unions down here, like the UAW, we were the southernmost UAW. We were the redheaded stepchildren of UAW. I see the same thing happening in a lot of other unions where the more entrenched used to be in the trade unions, but they aren't here as much, and in the manufacturing unions. So you got to treat those little locals with respect, and we didn't get that a lot of times. Our jobs were shipped off to Mexico and China in 2010, and we called out to the politicians around here who came to our plant to tour and campaign for votes when they were running for election, and who would not show up when they were shutting our plants down.
Rich, you've got a beautiful union history. We appreciate the call greatly. We got about 4 other people waiting.
Thank you, Richard, for your comments and your connection to our story today. We certainly appreciate you. Guys, this is
Can I ask a quick question to Jim?
Absolutely.
To Jim specifically, and I don't know if this relates to you, Steve, or not, apprenticeships.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've been bitching and moaning about wages and unions getting treated badly and stuff, but apprenticeship is something that I think we can all agree on. And tell us about that and how your different folks do that.
Unless you're Steve Kona.
Sure. Apprenticeship is a hot term right now. Everybody wants to get into apprenticeship, right? Everybody is recognizing.
What does it mean?
Apprenticeship, right? Apprenticeship is, you're working under the supervision of a journey level experienced crafts worker, right? So that you're learning a trade, you're learning a skill.
So you're bringing in younger people, typically right out of high school, or
right? Specifically in
college
construction, we see an aging workforce, right? There's not a new generation of skilled construction workers who are stepping into the profession. We have a retiring generation. We have an aging out of the generation. But in the building trades, apprenticeship is crucial because these are skills that you have to learn on the job, and you have to learn the theory behind them. What we do in the building trades as the unions is we have state registered apprenticeships that are registered with the Florida Department of Education. We have dedicated facilities. My union, the operating engineers, we have 18 acres out in Plant City. We've got cranes,
it's
classrooms.
A cool place.
It's state of the art, and so you learn a trade from somebody who's already learned a trade and been working that for a career.
And ironically, the government is actually with you on this issue, right?
They are. The administration. There was an attempt by the non-union side to sort of weaken apprenticeships because the best form of this is for a registered apprenticeship. And what they wanted to do is sort of weaken it and expand it to company-sponsored training programs and sort of weaken the true meaning of apprenticeship, which is what we hold our hats on, is our registered apprenticeship. We've been doing this for 100 years.
Oh, yeah.
We've got dedicated facilities. The non-union doesn't have that. They've got an association, the Associated Builders and Contractors. They claim that they're the number one producer of apprentices, but who they care about is right there in their names.
But you're teaching them the right way, the safe way, the smart way to do things.
Yes, our registered apprentices have to complete 2,000 on-the-job training hours every year to advance, as well as 144 academic hours.
And they become a journeyman and all those different levels.
You receive a certificate from the state at the completion of your 4-year program. You're a certified journey level operator. Our operators are making anywhere between $35 and $40 an hour on the check, and then we've got an incredible
prevailing wages and benefits.
I'm thinking there's a couple of. Go ahead, Steve.
Getting paid while training.
Doing it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which is really
Mario,
significant.
before you take that call,
yes,
we got to say goodbye to Steve Simon. He's got your appointment.
Listen, he's having too much fun. He's having too much fun.
Right.
He's having.
I thought he had to leave, but he's not leaving. Take the call, Mario.
Yep, we have a caller who's calling in on the guest line today. This is our guest, our friend. I'm going to bring her in now, and somebody who knows a thing or two about unions. I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. When you hear her dynamic voice, you'll probably know it immediately. Ms. Hernandez, is that you?
I am here, and I want to thank both of you for having such a robust conversation. To all my union brothers who are on the line or listening in, brothers and sisters, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I love talking about apprentices, the necessity for unions, and of course what Labor Day means to all of us Americans here in the United States.
Introduce yourself to us proper and tell us a little bit about your background. I know you, but our listeners may not.
Sure. My name is Carla Hernandez Max. I'm the president of United Teachers of Dade. We are the largest teachers union in the southeast of the United States. the first union in the South, a teachers union, to segregate. And we're doing wonderful things for education and advocating for our students' well-being. I'm also a vice president for the American Federation of Teachers, and I sit on the Women's Rights Committee and on the executive board for the Florida AFL-CIO. So I'm all things union, all things education, and I think this is a great topic for this morning.
And that's only part of what we love about you, Miss Carla. Did you have any questions or comments for our guests today? Did you want to open another avenue of conversation for our listeners?
I think that what's really interesting is that just 2 days ago, on August 30th, there was a Gallup poll that just came out, so I think this is super relevant. And the title of it is More in U.S. See Union Strengthening and, Want It That Way. So it's great research, polling on how Americans feel. It's increased for every kind of demographic, not just for women, for men, but also for political parties. So we see that Republicans, Independents, and Democrats are more and more joining their unions, obviously with national strikes like the Screen Actors Guild, the writers. All these things are bringing a lot of national attention. Amazon workers are also unionizing. And I think people are starting to understand how important it has been for middle-class families. The middle class was established because of unionization, because of, union workers. And for so many years now, we've seen that our middle class has started to decrease and become almost non-existent. It's either you have a lot or you have very little. And so people understand the importance of collective bargaining, of fair wages, of respect, of decency in the workplace, and, of course, making sure that you have a contract. And all these things are really bringing awareness to people, and I think that's why they're joining. And when we see culture wars, I know that we had a brother on earlier that was talking about what's happening, in the state of Florida. I think it's the most egregious anti-freedom, anti-union attack that the state of Florida legislature has put upon its constituents. It's quite honestly, it's disgusting. And, it's making people organize. It's making a state that was supposed to be a, no right state, in the way that they phrase it is, a state for workers' rights, which is not exactly what it means. It's a play on words. It's making people have to join in order for them to keep their freedoms, to keep their contracts, and to get fair wages.
Yeah, Carla, so, this is John Dingfelder, one of the co-hosts. If I want to have deductions off of my paycheck for various issues, health care, or other check boxes, there's probably 10 different check boxes I could have of things taken off my paycheck. But all of a sudden, it's illegal, it's wrong to have the check box for the union. What is up with that, Carla?
Well, absolutely. It's egregious. You can have a deduction for Disney Plus, and we know DeSantis does not like Disney right now. You can have a Netflix removal, all kinds of things. But when you are asking for your, agent, your bargaining agent to negotiate for you and to make sure that you have working conditions, they're saying that is not allowed. Something that we've had in our Constitution, by the way. Collective bargaining is part of the Florida State Constitution, and unions have been working this way for over 50 years. And so we see it as a direct attack to our liberties, to our freedoms. We see it as the government, the state government in particular, trying to take away workers' rights.
Well, let's put it in the Florida Constitution, that checkbox. You know what? That's what
Carla, let me offer that. I know the last time you threw your bonnet into the political arena didn't go as we had all hoped that it might.
Does she wear a bonnet?
But yeah, it's a beautiful.
Is it a
bonnet.
beret?
No, it's a bonnet. That we hope that.
I wore all of it.
Yeah, and wear it all beautifully.
And wear it all
beautifully. We just hope that didn't in any way discourage you from continuing on that path, because we see you, Carla. We hear you, and we want everybody to see you and hear you soon. Might we take a quick? Well, Jim wants to say something, and then I've got a call.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Carla. I've known Carla. This is Jim Janecko. I've known Carla for more than 10 years from down in Miami, and Carla's leadership is she's such a wonderful, fierce leader. This Senate Bill 256 the intention of that law was to cripple unions, but I think what we're going to find is that our brothers and sisters under Carla's leadership in UTD, they're going to organize like hell. And I know that the teachers union is the strongest in the state, and under Carla and the rest of the leadership of UTD, those teachers are going to organize. Those teachers are going to organize because workers are fed up. They're tired of the political games. Our teachers are tired of being in the crosshairs. Our teachers are targeted in this state, and we need to be rewarding them and not making things more difficult for them. So, Carla, keep it up, sister. I love you. You're doing a great job, and I know that your membership is going to organize.
There you go, Carla.
Jim, thank you so much. You're amazing. Listen, I'll tell you this to Jim's point. We've never seen so many political attacks and politicization of public education like we've seen in the past 2 legislative sessions. With the Don't Say Gay campaign, where now teachers can't even use nicknames. And I'm going to tell you nicknames like how. Like a Benjamin being called a Ben. Like a Jennifer being called a Jen. Like now teachers can have like severe consequences, even their certification suspended for these types of behaviors, which is, it's so silly because we want to make sure that our kids come into our class, that they feel comfortable with us, so that they can learn, so that we can give them access to all this knowledge. And we're talking about banning books and censoring curriculum, African American studies, how they're changing, the standards and what teachers can say about our true history. I think it's very un-American. I think this anti-union Senate Bill 256 is un-American.
It's anti-American, Carla, and it's almost anti-human. I mean, have we not learned anything in the human experience in this time that we've been on planet Earth? All you need to know is if you want your child to rise up against you, just restrict any activity you don't want him or her to do, right? So if you don't want your kid to stay out late, your kid's going to stay out late. You don't want your kid to be a bad kid, your kid's going to be a bad boy or girl. So, they don't get it. The more they constrict, the more we're going to fight back. And here's how I see it, Carla. We've talked about it before. There are more of us than there are of them. We just have to figure that connective tissue out and know how to go about making us all hold hands together and walk in that same direction.
All right, I got to direct traffic. Everybody's got their hands up. Jason.
So I wanted to bring up a point. I mean, listen, we have 2 former teachers in this room, 2 former teacher union reps, and Newsweek had an article just the other day. 6,920 advertised vacancies for teachers in the state of Florida as of August 7th. 5,072 advertised vacancies for support staff.
They don't want to come to Florida.
I mean, we're talking,
They're
we're talking
leaving Florida.
12,000 vacancies in education across the state of Florida.
They're dropping out of the field.
And this connects to everything that we're talking about. Middle class folks being squeezed, unions feeling like, teachers feeling like they don't have the support, because labor isn't as present as they used to be. The concern for me is that's only going to get worse. This is not a situation where it's going to turn around and fix itself. We have a major, major crisis on our hands in terms of public education in this state.
Carla, for governor, did you have something you wanted to drop in here, Steve?
Jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the fact of the right to work laws. Okay, I've asked several people what it is, what it means, and the general response that I got was, "Oh, you could be fired at any time," and so. To me, it all comes back to education. Educating everyone in regards to everything that has to do with our lives. Okay, so the right to work law basically just allows you to work in a union job without paying union dues. That's all it is. Yeah. Okay, because we all have the right to work.
Correct.
We can apply for a job at any time.
There's nobody stopping you from working wherever you want to work.
Absolutely. And see, in educating the people in regards to all of this scenario is part of what has gotten so many people to join the movement. They need that education to make the move to come in the right direction.
I've got a caller who's been sitting on patiently.
See if you have a question for Carla. She's called in all the way probably from South Florida.
And Carla, we want to hear your comentario because I heard you when Steve started to talk, you wanted to chime in on that. But this caller has been waiting for 23 minutes, and I've got to honor this 23 minutes.
All right, do it.
This has got to be a good union member. Christina, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'll talk quickly because I know you're coming to a close soon. I just wanted to mention a few wonderful benefits that the union provided me, and a little backstory. I was born in New York. My parents, of course, born and raised in New York. We transplanted down here when I was a very young age, but my grandfather retired from the NYC Sanitation Department, and my father belonged to several unions before he transplanted to Florida. I'm a former school teacher, and I've taught in several counties in the state of Florida. My first county was Broward County. I taught there for 5 years. Wonderful experience, wonderful union. And I just want to say that there was a time when the superintendent at that time in Broward County had taken away 50% of our planning. Now, for anyone out there that's not a teacher or has never spent any modicum of time with a teacher, planning is very important. And any teacher knows that we don't get everything done during our planning period. Nine out of 10 times we take a lot of work home with us, and we work for free on the weeknights, the weekends. And he took away 50% of our planning. So now we're going home with even more work. Well, the union fought for us, and we received a check the next year for, I guess, around $7,000 to pay us back for that amount of planning that we lost. So, I know a handful of teachers that refuse to join the union. I've never been more confused as to why they would make that decision, but there's a great example right there. My last county that I worked in was Hillsborough. They were very good to me, but unfortunately during COVID, there was a lot of budget cuts with low enrollment numbers in the arts, and I was a film and theater teacher, so I was one of the first ones to get cut.
Why is it always the arts, Christina? Why is it always the arts? That's shameful. Christina, with about just a few minutes left in show, allow me to get back to our caller, our guest, Carla Hernandez. But thank you so much, not only for the time spent educating our kids, obviously from coming from a good family, and by that I mean a union family, okay? Can we all agree that this is all, it's not just institutional, this is really more familial. You learned this at the knee of your grandfather. You learned this by the lessons you get from your parents, from your father, from your mother, so from your uncles and aunts. So thank you for sharing your story with us. We certainly appreciate your call. Carla, you were going to say just before Steve jumped in with his comentario.
Is that Carla or caller?
No, Carla, the caller.
There we go.
Carla, dale, Carla.
Yeah, we were talking about the 7,000 teaching vacancies, in the state of Florida. It is a self-inflicted wound. When you have, political attacks in education, when you are 48th in the country in how you fund education in the state of Florida, you create this self-inflicted wound where teachers see how they're being vilified, how they're being attacked, and their certification and teaching is, under duress because of all these things that are happening. And so teachers are so upset that, they can't teach with honesty and authenticity, that the pedagogy that they've learned and that they've, reinforced and strengthened throughout these years, that they can't use, their strategies and techniques to educate kids and elevate them. And so when you have all these things and you're low funded or underfunded or defunded, then you create an area where teachers who are passionate, who know how to do this job, who are excellent human beings, who you want in front of these children so that they can break poverty cycles, they can, they can reach for the stars and just break cycles that they've had. They're not sitting in front of those kids. And to see what's happening today, 7,000 teacher vacancies, that's 7,000 classrooms throughout the state that don't have a certified teacher that's teaching those kids. What is this service to the state, to our children, and to our future?
Unbelievable.
Shame on the state of Florida for doing what they're doing, but proud of all the union workers out there, especially Christina, who called in. Keep up the good job. Stay, just inspired, because we're doing it for kids. And anybody that's out there, join your union, support your union, and make sure you're paying attention to what's going on, because we need people to change the way they pay their membership so that we can survive this anti-union.
We love you, Carla. We love you and your work ethic. And I'll say it again at the risk of repeating myself. Carla for governor, or at least Secretary of Education.
Carla,
at very least Secretary of Education.
We're going to have you on many, many more times. We appreciate you greatly. And on top of everything you said, they want to privatize education, which is totally ridiculous, and take all the money out of public schools and put it to charters.
Thank our guest, JD.
Wrong.
Thank our guest, JD.
Steve Simon, ATU. We love you, man. We appreciate you coming. Jim
so
Janecko,
good of you to be here, Steve.
Jim Janecko, president of Central Florida Labor.
Jimmy.
Right on.
Former union.
Former union. Get active in your union. Listen, I mean, this is such an important topic. And for all of you that have called in today, sent in your emails that I couldn't read them today because we got so much going on. We were actually overwhelmed.
And on Monday, Don't just eat your picnic. Don't just go out and party. Remember what this is about. Google up Labor Day. Look at the history. Look at the meaning of the day.
Join a union. On behalf of my broadcast partner sitting right there next to me, John Dingfelder, our engineer, Jason Marlowe, our phone screener today, Irene, and our part-time producer, Lynn Marvin Dingfelder, who's listening from home. We love you. I'm Mario Nunez, wishing you salud and happy days. Be on the lookout for us next week. Stay tuned now for The Skinny with Ray Roa, Ben Montgomery, and Mitch Perry sitting right over there in the studio. Have a great Labor Day weekend, everybody.
Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair.